How are you feeling today? Today's episode, we're going to be talking about emotions and how emotions can either be detrimental to creating what you want to create, or it can actually support you in what you want to create. So tune in and let's get emotional. Hello, visionaries. Welcome to Create Your Vibrant Life podcast, where you can create the life you desire by tapping into your inner wisdom. I'm your host, Padma Ali. I'm widely known in the field of psychology to create long-lasting transformation. And now, I'm here to help you create the life you desire using a combination of neuropsychology and ancient healing practices. This podcast is for you, evolved, overachieving leader who's ready to unlock your highest potential. I'm here to guide you through a process of self-discovery to be the creator of your destiny. And you can do all of that by just taking aligned actions, tapping into the power of your brain, your inner wisdom, and ancient practices. So stay tuned, folks. I am so delighted you are here. Hello, visionaries. How are you all today? This is episode number 59 of the Create Your Vibrant Life podcast, How to Shift Your Emotions to Accomplish Success. And this is your host, Padma Ali. Thank you for joining me today. I'm so glad we're talking about emotions because emotions, we all feel emotions. However, we all have stories about emotions as well. How many of you have been told that certain emotions are bad, or you are too emotional, or you feel too much, or you cry too much? We're often given labels around emotions. And one of the reasons I even brought up this topic, I thought about bringing up this topic to you all, is because I noticed a certain pattern of when clients start working with me. Like there are certain themes around emotions that often come up. And I also started to notice how certain emotions actually kept people trapped and certain emotions help people move forward. So this is also dear to me because as with my background in psychotherapy, as you all may already know, if you've been listening for a while, and if you haven't, if you're a new listener, welcome, welcome. I'm so happy you're here. My goal is to create transformation in every episode and that things that you can take away concretely to apply to your own life. So I also invite you, if you're new, to go back to the previous episodes and listen. And also, if you feel called to, please leave a review. I would so appreciate you leaving a review because if you liked it, chances are your friends and family will as well. And also, this will help us reach more people. So today's topic. When was the last time you asked yourself, how are you feeling? What I've seen more often than not is people either ignore their feeling or feel like they have no control over how they're feeling. And this is something I used to notice in my psychotherapy practice. Like the emotions would be the predominant way that people led. And oftentimes they would feel like I have no control over how I feel sad or whether I feel angry or my outburst because I feel a certain emotion. And that, in fact, was one of the reasons why. How do I frame this? So emotions, stay with me. I'm going a little bit all over the place, but I'm going to tie it all back together. Emotions are important. However, when we give too much importance to the emotion, then we kind of get stuck in that emotion. And what exactly is emotion? Emotion is energy in motion. So when you put your attention all into how angry you're feeling, how sad you're feeling, how frustrated you're feeling, what exactly do you think will happen? Most likely than not, you're going to continue to feel that on a very more intense level, right? And what I've seen in my own personal life with my clients too, when you open the floodgates to certain emotions, it's almost like you can't stop it. You have to ride that wave. And then what we do as humans, we add a lot of meaning and stories to that emotion. Oh, I can't control my anger. I'm an angry person. I am a sad person. I'm an anxious person. We label ourselves with those things, and then we become that label, right? So why am I talking about all this? And what has all of this got to do with success? We're going to dive more into it because emotions can either create or miscreate in your life. And you may or may not know that. And that's what we're going to dive into. And I really want you to let that sink in. Right? Emotions have the ability to create or miscreate in your life. What does that really mean? Let me ask you a simple question. Think about the last time you felt really happy and joyful. Maybe you watched a sunset, or you had this amazing conversation with your children, or you went for a walk with a friend and you feel so uplifted and you feel there's this energy of joy. You just feel so happy and feel love and joyful. How does, when you feel that, think about that and think about the actions that followed that. What do you do when you feel so much love and joy and happiness? What do you do right after? All your actions after that will reflect that feeling, right? Isn't that what happens? Now think about the last time you were so angry or sad or bitter or frustrated or anxious. And now think about what was the actions that followed those emotions? Most of them, if you're angry and you're the yeller kind of angry person, well, I don't like labeling anybody as an angry person or a sad person. These are just things that we have chosen. That's for another topic. But for right now, think about the actions that followed that. If you're a yeller, when you get angry, then you probably yelled more. If you are sad or anxious, you felt more anxious and your actions reflected more of that anxiety, did it not? Take a minute to reflect on that. It's so powerful, isn't it? And when we operate from this place of, I have no control over my emotions rule me, how do you think you will operate in the world? What do you think will come out of that? You're going to continue as though emotions have full control over you. And this is what I would see in my psychotherapy practice too when I used to do this, when I was doing this. And that was one of the reasons I had to step away from that, because I no longer subscribe to the belief that we have no control over our emotions. I know for a fact that we can control our emotions, and I will demonstrate that in a second to you. Emotions, we have power over our emotions even though we feel like we don't. And here is why we have control over our emotions. And I really want you to pay attention to this. Emotions are a habit. Emotions, any emotion you feel, and then you have a reaction to whatever you're feeling on the inside, whatever actions follow, that is all habit driven. If you're feeling anxious, you've trained your brain to be anxious. It's literally, I've used this analogy before, if the bell rings, and you have a dog at home, the dog is going to bark. At least most dogs do. You might be like, I have a dog who doesn't bark. You know where I'm going with that. The dog is trained to bark the moment you hear the dog hears the doorbell. That's exactly how the brain operates. If you've trained your brain to go into anger when you are triggered, that's exactly where the brain's going to go. It's habit driven. This is the neural pathways you've heard me talk about over and over and over again. But we feel like we have no control over our emotions. because the trigger happens, we forget that our brain is literally a machine, and that's exactly what it does. And we feel like, oh, this is what I do. No, this is not what you do. You've trained yourself to do that. And emotions are, I'm going to connect it all back to success, okay? So stay with me. Emotions, before you feel something, there's often a thought behind it. Let me demonstrate that to you. So you are, say for example, you're really having a great day. You're going about, the sun is shining, you're out on a walk with some favorite people in your life. Like, it just feels good. And the phone rings, and it is your mother. And you have had some altercations with your mother in the past. Let's just stay with me, okay? Imagine for a second. You don't want to talk to her, but you know you have to pick up the phone for whatever reason. How does your mood change in that moment? You probably get frustrated, annoyed, irritable, and feeling like you have to do something that you don't want to do, right? Immediately, do you notice the shift in emotion? And why did the shift in emotion happen? It's because a thought came up. A thought came up that I don't want to do this, I don't want to talk to her, and now I have to talk to her. I'm randomly making this up. You can put anything, any example in your own life. Right? This is how powerful our brain is. It makes you believe that you don't have any control over your emotions or your thoughts, and you have 100% control over any of these things. Now, thoughts, you get probably 10,000 different thoughts in a day. And thoughts, maybe they just come in and out, but whatever thought you choose to focus on is a choice. And whatever emotion follows that thought is a choice. So then what do you do? What exactly do you do with those emotions then? Do you ignore them? Do you say, I'm not going to feel this right now? No, absolutely not. When you push something away or ignore it or just say, I'm not going to deal with it, it's literally like those whack-a-moles, right? Like when you hit something and then it's the children's toy, it comes, another thing pops up. It's that same thing happens. What I'm inviting you to do is to move that emotion. Move that emotion because the energy needs to be moved. And if emotion is nothing but energy in motion, and I'm going to give you certain ways, certain techniques that I use for myself and my clients, at least a couple of them, that will help you shift emotions. And I'll tell you again why we need to shift emotions. What has emotions got to do with creating or miscreating in your life? We will go all into that. But for right now, just follow along. Right? We need to move the emotion. We talked about emotions, you have control over them. And emotions are usually preceded by some thoughts. So far you're with me, right? And that our actions follow emotions. That's all I want you to follow all along right now. So what do you do with emotions then? The important thing is to move the energy that the emotion brings. So again, drop back into your body. When I say drop in, I usually use this word a lot with my clients. What I mean is literally close your eyes and go inside your body and notice. Notice what you feel, where the energy of anger or sadness or frustration or joy resides in your body. And usually you will notice it shows up in your body unless you're very disconnected with your body. And if you are, then it's time that you connect back with your body, because that disconnect it will not work for you. And don't take my word for it. Notice your life. That will reflect back to you how disconnected you feel from your body. So how do you move the emotion? We'll talk more about that. So the problem is not that you have certain emotions. It's really not, that is not the real issue. The issue is that the stuckness of that emotion in your system. And if it is stuck in your system, it's eventually going to create more of that same patterns of emotions and behavior. And it's also going to create stuck energy in your body. And when we have stuck energy in our bodies, it often leads to dis-ease. Okay, disease is how it's often created by stuck emotions. So are you with me so far? Does this make sense? Does it make sense that the unprocessed emotion is the real issue? So let me give you another example, and this might also help solidify this. Say your boss says something that triggers you, and you get annoyed. But you don't say anything there, and you get annoyed and frustrated and angry, and you go into your stories about how your boss always treats you this particular way, etc., etc. And then you come back home and find your home in a complete disarray. People in your home, whatever, right? And then you find yourself getting more annoyed, more frustrated. The pressure continues to build. Something that you probably might have had more tolerance for in the past, when you feel okay, triggers you more. And then a friend calls and says something, and that triggers you even more. Then you're annoyed with your friend. That this is the cycle that often happens. And I'm sure you all can relate this to your own life, right? So the stuck energy, and if you trace it back, it'll go back to the fact that you felt something when your boss said something to you and you didn't process it, and then that's coming back. And like I said, I will give you some concrete strategies on moving emotions. But for right now, just stay with this. And let's now talk about what has emotions got to do with success. So what happens? Why does this even play out? What has it got this? I'm losing my words. What has this got to do with success? You remember how we talked about thoughts create emotions, thoughts create feelings. Now, everything has a vibration or a frequency to it. And so do emotions. And you can do your own research. Just Google emotions and vibration or frequency, and you will actually see a chart which says what emotions have the highest vibration and what emotions have the lowest vibration. This is just physics. Go look it up. Certain emotions like anger, shame, guilt have very low frequency, very low vibration. Certain emotions like love, joy have higher frequency. Now, even if you don't buy into all of this, just notice how you feel. Go back to the time when you felt really joyful. How does your body feel? How does your system feel? Probably very light, and just there's a sense of peace, right? And think about the time you felt angry and frustrated and annoyed with someone. How did your body feel then? And that's what I'm inviting you to tune into. Probably feels horrible and heavy and dull and really brings your energy down, right? So thoughts create feelings or emotions, and emotions have a vibration to them, create a vibration, and that vibration then creates a frequency. And this is how manifestation happens. That frequency then creates or brings in opportunities and circumstances into your life that then allows you to get to where you want to go. Now, again, if this is not making sense to you, just stay with me a little bit longer. I'm going to go more into this. For some of you, all of this will make a lot of sense. For some of you, this may be a little bit out there when I'm talking about frequency and vibration. The important piece to remember is that how you feel will reflect your actions. Actions always follow an emotion. If you feel good, you're going to act in a way that is conducive to how you feel. Right? That you're going to act in a way that makes you feel good. If you are not feeling good, you're going to make choices with your actions that are going to be in correlation with how you feel. If you're angry or sad and you want to numb it, you're going to either tune out and watch TV and drink alcohol or do any of those things, or lash out on your family members because you feel a certain emotion. That's the action that's following those feelings, which is why it's vital that we shift out of them. So this particular train of thought is what I'm going to invite you to focus on. Thoughts create feelings, feelings create vibration, and vibrations create your frequency, which is how you create in the world. So if you want to create successful life, whether it's in your career, whether it's your wealth, your health, or relationship, your frequency has to match with what you want. If you're not doing that, you're actually acting from your circumstances rather than where you want to be. For example, I've had some people, and this sometimes comes up when I'm interviewing somebody to see if we're a good match to work together. Sometimes they may say we can't afford your services. And to me, when someone says that, they're operating from circumstances. Now, I'm not saying that you need to go and, get a second mortgage on your home and to work with somebody. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm inviting you to consider is you're operating from circumstances. You're operating from what you see right now. And when you're focusing on your current circumstances, that's what you're going to create. Because if it makes you feel bad, I don't have money, and you feel really terrible about that, then that is what you're going to continue to create in your life. But if you looked at it from possibilities, which is frequency that you want to have in your life, that is what you're going to create. This is where the resourcefulness comes in. Now think about a time in your life. Right? Has there ever been a time in your life where you encountered what you called as an obstacle, and you said, okay, how can I get resourceful? How can I get creative about this obstacle? I want this, whatever that was. And you focused on getting that. You changed how you felt about it. You no longer felt trapped. You no longer felt like a victim. And you focused on, okay, how can I have what I want? Right? You became determined to have that. And that came from how your thinking changed, which then changed your feelings. That changed your vibration, and that changed your frequency. It's as simple as that. And this is why it's really important, to watch out for your emotions. Your emotions are powerful. And if you feel like you have no control over your emotions, then you are in habit of that emotion, which means you have to work on training yourself to not be in habit of that emotion. Wow, that was a mouthful. But you know where I'm going with that. I'm really inviting you to take a pause and see this and hear this. You have control over your emotions. And if you're not believing that, then you're choosing to give in to those emotions that no longer serve you. So how do we shift out of that? I was also thinking about this. This just popped into my head. In traditional Ayurveda, they talk about how your thoughts affect everything, and especially someone who's cooking. So when in monasteries, they would only assign the cooking to someone who is really in a good place, because that person's emotions, that person's energy is going to affect the food that they cook. You can do research on this on your own. In fact, when I've mentioned my illness many times in many of these episodes, I was working with an Ayurvedic practitioner who helped me heal from my illness. And he would say that the people making the medicines, who would actually sit and do the, Ayurvedic medicine works with herbs and elements. And so whoever would make that, they had to be in a good energetic place. They had to feel good for them to do this, because their energy would then go into the energy of the medicine. And even how I am emotionally present or not present when I'm recording this will impact whoever is listening. So I do a lot of these practices to clear my emotions all the time. Yeah, it's like stuck emotions. When you don't process stuck emotions, it's like carrying a garbage bag on your back at all times. Or it's like, you have had constipation for like a week, and it's like that. It's like carrying so much garbage in your system. That's exactly what stuck emotions do. And again, don't take my word for it. Just check in with yourself. Tune into yourself when you feel really sad or angry or frustrated or anxious. How does that impact your entire day? How does it impact your weeks? Notice, bring awareness to that. So now do you see, like if you want to have a particular career path, or you want to be in a great relationship, or you want to have more wealth in your life, are you noticing? Are you bringing awareness to how your thoughts create feelings, then create vibration, then create frequency to make that happen? If you're always looking at your bank account and going, I don't have enough, it's horrible, like, oh my God, right? How does that feeling, think about what you're doing the next time. What actions follow those emotions if you struggle with money? It just brings those same circumstances back to you. All right, visionaries, let's now talk about certain steps, how to shift emotions. How do you work with emotions? There are many different ways to move emotions. So first of all, remember that emotions you have control over. You have to literally train your brain to say, I am not giving into those emotions. Now, I do want to put a caveat to this. When I work with my clients, I invite them when they're on their own to move out of the emotions, like shift out of those emotions super quickly. But in our sessions, we actually dive into certain emotions that come up as a theme that is stuck behind a belief. Because in my work with them, I go into it deeper to clear it from the roots. I do energy work around clearing some of those emotional imprints that are in their system. So that's the only caveat I want to place on this, because I don't want you to just ignore those emotions and then it's still like sitting like a ticking time bomb in your system. We don't want that. Okay? So I'm just naming that. That's exactly how you can, that's something you have to sit with and ponder on how you can move some of these deeper rooted emotions. But for right now, I'm going to give you some tools around how you can shift emotions quickly. Now, emotions are energy in motion. So to move emotion, you actually need to create some energy. Now, think about what gives energy. Exercise, walking. I love dancing. Dancing is one of the easiest ways I move energy in for my own self. And I involve my kids and we just dance around. Like sometimes that's the easiest way. Music moves energy. Think about it. Again, like go back into your own life. Anything I'm sharing with you connected back with your life. Being in nature. See, I've already given you a whole list, okay? My goal is to give you certain tools and you can pull out whatever tool works for you. The key is awareness, noticing when you're feeling that, and then acting on it by using some of these tools. I love walking in nature. I love connecting with the sounds of nature. I love being by myself. That is another way I discharge stuck emotions. I use plants to help move emotions like sage. If you don't know what saging is, go look it up. On YouTube, you'll find a lot of information on how to use sage. Sage is a plant, and dried sage, when you light it up, it gives a certain, it smokes, and that smoke allows the clearing to happen. There's science behind it. You can read up on it. I'm not going to go into that right now. But basically, you're moving the energy. And most of all, here's another piece. Intention. Intention helps to move emotion. You know, I may have mentioned this. I can't remember. When I was a kid growing up, I had big emotions, and so does my daughter, like very big emotions. Now, emotions were something that my family didn't know how to handle. They were very much on the lower emotional side, but I had a lot of emotions. And no one taught me how to deal with emotions. Either my parents would shut down, or I would be, that was not acceptable somehow. Again, like there's a lot of societal norms around emotions. And I see that with my own child, right? She has very big emotions, but I've given her some of these tools on how we can move emotions. Emotions are not bad. It's just the way our systems process. Again, like I said, it's all about moving the stuck emotion. So why did I bring up that story? I can't remember why I brought up what I did as a child about emotions. Oh dear. I can't remember. See the bottom. Okay, let me just come back to that. So with emotions, the important piece is to move them as fast as you can. I had to pause there for a second to really gather my thoughts around what I was trying to say, and I now honestly can't remember what I was trying to say. So we're going to table that. I'm sure it'll come up after I'm done with this episode, and I'm sure it'll show up in another episode. I will share with you whatever I missed today. Here you go, people. Here you go. So another important tool that I use, it's from this book called The Emotion Code. Just go look it up. It's called The Emotion Code, and it walks you through a whole way of removing stuck emotions. It's really fascinating. It's very helpful. I use it with my clients. I use this with myself. I use this with my children. Extraordinarily powerful way of moving emotion. So as a takeaway for you all, as we wrap up this episode, my invitation to you is to notice where in your life there's a habit of certain emotions, and what have you noticed about how you shift them or you don't shift them? What is the trajectory that emotion follows? And knowing now that it's a habit, it's something you learned that you can then shift, what particular tool will you use to help move these emotions so you can actually create the life you want? And now you may also not think that, oh, I'm angry today, and that has no impact on what I want in my career. It absolutely 100% does. Because even though you might be like, I'm just angry at my partner, I'm just angry at my kids for doing whatever they're doing, that anger, that energy still carries over to anything else you do in your life. So it's you may not make that connection, but it does have an impact. So if you want to create the life you want, you need to work with the emotions. Now, by no means am I saying you need to be a robot and not feel anything. The key is to acknowledge. You don't need to keep diving into it and understanding why am I feeling this way? Oh, my parents did this to me. This is why I feel that way. We don't need to do any of that. All you need to do is acknowledge how you feel and then use some of these things to move the emotion. That's all it is. We're going to feel emotion, and by no means are you always going to feel joyful and love and happy at all times either. That's not happening either. In fact, just a couple of days ago, I woke up with lots of thoughts swirling in my head that were making me feel a little anxious and like feeling something was happening. I can't even remember what I was thinking. It's that habitual sometimes. And all I did was saying, okay, I see that. I acknowledge it. This is how I'm feeling right now. And I have a choice. I'm either going to continue feeling anxious throughout the day, or I can choose something else. And I chose to say, I declared, I am going to just feel gratitude for everything that I am experiencing. That was a declaration I made, and then I found things to be grateful for all throughout my day, whether it was my water faucet, or whether it was the walk I took, or the clients I saw, or my kids, or my husband. Like, I just decided I was just going to be in gratitude throughout the day. That's how I shifted it, rather than go into, why am I feeling this way? Oh, these giving into those thoughts or those emotions. It's sometimes as simple as that. So hopefully you had some big ahas by now. I'm sure you did. And ask yourself, how can I apply this? And I invite you to share this with your friends and family, because every one of us has emotions. And if it resonated for you, it will resonate for them as well. And if you can, please leave a review, like I mentioned right in the beginning. I would love that, and it would mean a lot to me, because this is how I get to reach a lot of people. And thank you so much for joining me today. Next week, we are going to be talking about kind of following similar theme, But we're going to be talking about the power of words on manifesting. So today we talked about emotions, and now we're going to go back to the words or thoughts, the origins of how all of this starts. All right, my dear visionaries, thank you so much for joining and tuning in today. And have a beautiful, wonderful day or night or evening, wherever you're hearing this from. Thank you so much for listening. I have a request for you. If you found value, chances are that your friends and family will too. So if you can leave a positive review on iTunes, it will help reach so many more people. And if you have any topics or questions you would like me to feature, please send them to support@padmaali.com. And lastly, please share your takeaways and breakthroughs with me on Instagram @Padma Ali. Thank you so much for tuning in.